scene out of a movie. So.
Describe the sound, because a lot of people have reported a deafening, obviously, sound with a quake of this magnitude and size. That must be the first thing that struck you.
Yeah. Because you just basically can't hear anything, and then you hear just the rumbling and the crashing of glass and bits of buildings coming down.
We've heard time and again this afternoon from people who were there for the September quake. This was something altogether different. Is that your experience also?
Yeah, this is way worse, and plus you're dealing with a city that's got a lot of buildings that were already pre-damaged, and then they've been struck by this quake, which is obviously a lot closer to the city centre. I'm now on the other side of town, so I've seen three parts of town. I've actually got two busloads of tourists in the northwest of the club, rugby club and squash club rooms, holding tourists safely, ready to get them back to the airport in the morning. And this side of town, you can't even tell there's been an earthquake. Yet in town, it looks like a war zone.
Aaron, what about your situation personally? You mentioned you in work, you were helping people get out when the quake struck. Do you know what sort of situation your home is, friends, family? Have you been able to contact people?
I've seen my house. My house is fine. I've sent my wife and children out of town down to the mother-in-law. So I think as we speak, probably past Dunedin now. So they're safe. But I've got people here to look after. There's a lot of really scared tourists. I've never experienced this before. The sports club room has been fantastic, and local neighbours are pitching in. They're giving us blankets. We've got people with babies been billeted out. Really elderly people on medication been billeted out. So we're taking care of people.
You mentioned the two busloads of people. What lies ahead for you and all the other people who are stuck in Christchurch over the next 24 hours? I assume sleep is not on the agenda.
No, sleep's definitely not on the agenda. It's just staying safe, because at this point we don't know that this event is over. And so people have to stay really, really vigilant. They need escape plans. They need to have their emergency kits ready to roll, because you don't know what's around the corner.
Let's talk about those tourists. A number of them are elderly, and I understand there are also 3 babies in that group. You've got nothing to really cope with them and make sure they are comfortable.
True, but you'd be in Christchurch, you'd be really surprised what a bit of door knocking does. I've just went and hit a couple of neighbours, and then they just spread out and hit other neighbours. And so people are coming forward and helping us out. Just sensational. People stick together. One of the Americans that's with us is a Red Cross emergency worker, so he's taking names, and just in case the event gets worse, we've got a full tally of who we've got, and then as soon as that airport terminal's open, we'll get them back out there ready to go.
All right, Aaron Cowan, thank you very much for that. You were the One News Extended Special. Another way, of course, of seeing what exactly has been happening in Christchurch is on the internet. It's YouTube. This is the latest vision we've just got off the net after the aftermath of the quake. Just some of the images of the devastation of today's quake. Obviously a little bit outside the city centre was what we were seeing there. Reporter John Selwood was right in the epicentre of the quake in Littleton. He says the destruction there is extensive.
Well, I guess the easiest way is to start with what I'm looking at right now. I'm looking at down the main street of Littleton, my favourite restaurant. Most of it's on the pavement. The fish and chip shop, most of it's on the road. The supermarket, it's got a giant hole in it. The coffee shop, roofs sunken in. it's a write-off. If I sound slightly emotional, it's because a small town and the people, they get under your skin and you're losing a friend. And if I was to make an estimate, I'd say 80% of the heart of Littleton, which is a historic town, has been badly damaged. And, saying badly damaged, what does that mean? Well, I guess it means that the structural integrity of these old buildings is severely damaged and probably not being engineered, but taking a guess, probably irretrievably so. People are standing around. We're lucky. The Army have mobilised. They just happened to be in port. They were on board a Navy ship heading down for an exercise to Timaru. The earthquake hit, and so now they've basically set up an operation here in Littleton, helping as best they can, but it's really an eerie situation. What do you do? The earthquake has gone. Yes, there are aftershocks, but it's that pause, that quiet, if you like, where everyone's going, damn, we've got to do it again. We've got to pick ourselves up, and we've got to start cleaning up, and we've got to find a way to go on and say, it's okay. Having been through the first earthquake, this was terrifying. It was a magnitude higher. I know it wasn't on the Richter scale, it was less. But in terms of the intensity, in terms of sheer visceral fear, this was terrifying. It was absolutely terrifying. We rushed together, 4 of us, ran outside. You don't really think about the stuff. It's too quick. You're in a different zone. You're not looking, oh, that's fallen down. You are trying to get yourself to safety. What I remember is just hugging people, holding on to them tight, trying to wrap hands around heads so nothing fell over, and just getting out. Get out of the building. Get out of the house. Get to somewhere in open space. Mightn't be the safest thing to do, but it's the natural reaction, and that's exactly what we did.
John Selwood speaking earlier this evening. We cross now back to Tom McRae, who has been giving us reports throughout the evening on the ground in the city centre of Christchurch. Tom, what can you tell us?
Well, pretty much everyone here has got a hot meal in their stomach, a glass of water, and is just bunking down for the night, really. The rain is falling heavily on this tent here. It basically was lucky, if that's the right word to use, because this is actually set up for the Ellerslie Flower Show. So there was already power, there was already lights here, there was already this structure in place. Now 1,000 people will be staying here overnight. As you can see behind me, most of them are bunking down and just chatting. At some stage the lights will be turned off and in for a long night.
Tom, what's the plan tomorrow? Obviously these people pretty grateful, first of all, to be alive, to have shelter, to have a meal. Tomorrow morning, though, we know the rescue efforts will continue throughout Christchurch. As for the people there, I guess they want to go home. What's the plan?
Yes, they do. They've been calling travel agents, they've been calling airlines, they've been calling rental car companies, pretty much anything to get out of Christchurch at this stage. But the thing that will hold them up tomorrow is that all of their luggage, all of their passports, all of their gear is in their hotels in the CBD, which is cordoned off, as we know. So it'll be a major logistical issue that the Red Cross are dealing with. They've basically registered everyone who's come into this building and they'll be dealing with that tomorrow. They know where they were staying, which hotels, which hostels, and where their gear is. So I guess they'll be working through that tomorrow. So it looks like these people will be here for some time yet, although most of them are desperate to get out of here.
Obviously very keen to get out, but I guess the reality is, pragmatically speaking, a lot of the roads are closed or very extensively damaged, an awful lot of cars crushed beyond any use whatsoever. A lot of people just aren't going to be able to go anywhere. No, you're right, they're not. And I think that's what they're coming to grips with. The initial shock of living through that sized earthquake with that much damage. I guess everyone's sort of settling down and taking that on board now, but they're definitely looking ahead to what can they do. At this stage there's been no advisory, no one here has been told when they can leave. There's reports that the international airport will open to international flights, from midday tomorrow, but whether they can get out, whether the flights are delayed, whether they can get their luggage is still all up in the air here tonight. All right, Tom McRae, thank you very much for that. Well, as we near the end of our special extended coverage of the earthquake in Christchurch, let's take a look back at the main events of the day. Just before 1 this afternoon, a magnitude 6.3 quake struck 10 kilometres south of Christchurch. At just 5 kilometres deep, it was far more deadly and destructive than the major quake there last September. The government says this could be New Zealand's darkest day. 65 people have been confirmed dead. Christchurch Mayor Bob Parker told One News earlier this evening that figure could double. Makeshift hospitals have been set up right across the city to help treat hundreds of casualties. Some of the more critical patients are being airlifted out, some as far away as Auckland. A major search and rescue operation is underway tonight as rescue workers work frantically to free people still trapped in the quake's rubble. They've already managed to rescue around 120 people who were trapped in the collapsed buildings. There has been widespread destruction in buildings right across Christchurch. The city's cathedral has been all but destroyed, its spire falling disastrously earlier today. A huge contingent of New Zealand Defence Force personnel are converging on the city to help out. And an Australian urban search and rescue specialist team is arriving in about an hour's time. Facilities set up in parks and schools are close to bursting point, with the thousands of people left homeless by the quake. It's now raining and people are bracing for a long wet night, with temperatures dropping to about 10 degrees. All schools and colleges in the Christchurch region have been closed until further notice. Many people have been left without water and power, and that will be off in Christchurch, in the CBD and in the eastern suburbs overnight and possibly for a day or two yet. The government has signed a special emergency spending act to release funds for rescue operations. Aftershocks have been continuing throughout the day. The latest, a magnitude 4.0 near Lyttelton at a depth, again, of just 5 kilometres. We have been watching a One News extended special program on this afternoon's devastating earthquake in Christchurch. One News is on air again from 5:30 a.m. tomorrow morning with the breakfast team for the first civil defence briefing out of Wellington, and we'll be on air until midday. Many thanks for watching from the whole team.